Hey everybody, it's Candy, aka Brown Eyed Girl 69. How y'all doing? Well, I might as well go ahead and say it. Happy Easter. It's officially Sunday, March 31st, 2024. And I'm off today. I'm gonna get to spend some time with my grandbaby daughter, and we're going out to my son-in-law's brother's house. But they're getting up and going to church in the morning. Just for the family, I suppose. It's not like they go to church that often or anything like that. They're just doing it because that's what most people do on Easter Sunday. And we are almost 1 week away from this big event on April 8th. I don't know if I should request that day off work or not. Maybe I should. No, I just wanted to come on here and talk about a couple things. Nothing specific, Just, I guess, things that I am observing, in social media as well as out in the public. But I would say more social media than reality. Um, in my little town that I live in, everything seems pretty normal. It doesn't seem out of place. It doesn't seem like, people are just living their lives, going about their own business, Um, Going to work, spending time with family, friends, loved ones, etc. Coming and going to the grocery store, because that's what they need to do. And people come in and get food for all sorts of different reasons, for their personal home or for a party at work or at school or at church or, family gatherings, whatever. But nobody really seems out of sorts. Nobody's really been talking a lot about Easter or I had a few people wish me a happy Easter and stuff, over the last couple of days. But, and I wish a couple of people happy Easter too, especially when there's kids that come through my line and they're getting candy and goodies and stuff like that. And I haven't really heard a lot of talk about April 8th solar eclipse, as far as like any type of different viewpoints on it, as far as like people in my town, I haven't really heard any major discussions about it. Now on social media, it's everywhere. It's like, ugh, it's all in your face about this April 8th crap. And I'm see so many different viewpoints on it, I see people say, oh, it's God's, judgment on America. I see people say that, there's going to be an invasion take place, so to speak. Maybe aliens will make their appearance. I've heard people say all sorts of things. Demons. It really is just kind of crazy what some of these people think, And I just have to laugh about it, honestly, because sometimes it triggers me and it makes me mad, and I think, man, how can people be so stupid, But truly, humans are. They are. There's some humans out there that are just gullible, They'll just take everything you say at face value and don't question anything. Me, I think I always sort of had that questioning in me. I did ask a lot of questions when I was a kid. Not necessarily out of curiosity. Most of it was out of curiosity, but some of the questions I asked because, well, I wanted to know what my mom thought of things or what my parents thought about certain subject matters, you know? Another thing that I've been thinking about too is generations. I did some research on generations last night. I was looking at information on the different generations. Um, Now, me, I'm a Gen Xer. I was born in 1969. Uh, my parents were from the silent generation, and that generation, I think, a couple different places on the internet, used one year as like 1927. I think another year might have been 1925, but it was around that time frame. And I think it went to like 1945. So that would be like right when World War II ended. And then the next generation to come after that is the boomers, you know? And that was like 1945 to like 1960. Early 60s. And then the Gen Xers. And then after this Gen Xers, I guess we had what? The Millennials and the Gen Zers. And now we got the Alpha generation. Well, I'm a Gen Xer raised by Silent Generation. Silent Generation, I did some research because, I think the reason why I started researching some of these things is because of my relationship that I have with my mother. I'm almost 55 years old and I still question things. As to why my mother does things or why I was raised a certain way or why she says the things that she says. I wanted to see the correlation with how certain generations were raised, okay? And each generation was raised a specific way. But a lot of that inherently comes with the way they were raised because of their parents. But at the same time, like me, I always knew that I was going to raise my children differently than the way I was being raised. I automatically knew that at a very early age. At a very early age, I started telling myself that I was going to let my children and loved ones know that they were loved and wanted in my life. Because I wasn't given that. I didn't have any kind of emotional attachment to my mother. I can't say I didn't, but it was more her. She was not the nurturing mother. She wasn't the loving and coddling kind of woman. She was raised in a different time frame. And her goals and her purposes in her life as she was a young woman and coming into adulthood, etc., were completely different than what my goals and purposes was going to be for my adulthood. But I think we all as humans have purposes and goals. It doesn't matter what generation we're born in. But because my mother was so cold emotionally, I changed that. I watched it was probably about a 15-minute video by this guy named David Hoffman. And he's like a documentary guy. He's been around for a minute. He's made a lot of he's had a lot of really cool interviews and stuff like that, especially on the 60s, the topic of the 60s and stuff. But he did this one interview about this one specific area in the state of Missouri, 60s. And these children were boomers. And they were all given a survey. They allowed cameras to come into the town and, talk to the people and et cetera, and made this documentary about this place. And then presented it to the public. Well, then the people in that town, well, they were kind of like, wow, they made us out to be worse than we actually are or whatever. But these people, these teenagers, specifically teenagers in the 60s, they didn't rebel. They were very privileged financially. They wore nice clothes. They drove nice cars. They went to a nice school. They all pretty much got good grades, had good aspirations to go to college, have a good career. A lot of them, when interviewed, were asked about certain things, and a lot of the answers were, yeah, I want to have a nice home. I want to have a nice bank account. I want to have a couple of nice cars for me and my wife and children, and I want to have a good career. I want to make good money. These were all the things that were spoke about in this specific interview that I was watching. And that is what made me start questioning maybe the generations. Maybe that's why my mom is the way she is, because these boomers were raised by silent generation parents. And so because of the fact that I was watching a documentary on boomers and their behavior, and the fact that their parents were silent generation, well, here I am. I'm a Gen Xer, not far away from the boomers, and my parents were silent generation as well. But how I turned out in my raising and how these kids turned out were complete opposite ends of the spectrum. I will say this. My mother recently said something to my daughter, and it really did strike a nerve with me. It really hurt my feelings. But I think that's what she is, a reaction, and I'm not going to react. But my mother never says she loves me unless it's said to her first. And then even if it is said to her first, she has a very hard time replying it back. It's just too difficult for her. She's not physically affectionate at all. She's not a hugger. She's not a kisser. Now, maybe with my grandbabies, she likes to hug and kiss on them because, well, they're little kids. But the older you get, no, there is no... Even when I was a kid, there was no love and affection there. She wasn't a hugger. She wasn't a kisser. She wasn't a I love you kind of mom, I got all that from my dad, but the thing about it was my dad was never at home because he was always out working. My dad worked in the oil field, so he might be gone for 2 or 3 weeks at a time and then get to come home 1 week out of the month and then be gone again, He did call me every night. My dad definitely always called me every night when he was away from home, and always told me he loved me. So I got just enough love and attention from him that kept me going, there was a part of me that said that everything would always be okay, you know, that it was all good. But I am starting to learn about why my mother is the way she is because of the time she was raised in, you know. Silent generation where children are to be seen and not heard. So, of course, those kids are either A, going to follow into the footsteps and try to raise their children that way, based off of that thinking. Or they're going to say, you know, there's something wrong with this kind of thinking and I'm going to change it. You know, I'm going to raise my children that they are to be seen as well as heard, you know. And communication would definitely been a major thing, you know, and it was with me and my daughter. My daughter and I have always had a very good communication with one another. When it came to discipline on Kelsey, I didn't ever have to really use any kind of physical discipline on her. I never had to spank her. All I had to do was raise my voice just a little bit. And I would get her attention. Once I had her attention, then I could get down on her level. You know, I always like to be on eye level with her. So if she was standing and I was standing up, I'd squat down and, you know, look her in the face, look her in the eye, and explain to her why I needed to get her attention, you know, and why we're communicating. So, yeah, me and my daughter has always had very good communication. I was always loving and affectionate to her. I mean, I smothered her probably too much. I try to kiss and hug on her now, but she's just not. It just depends. It just depends, you know. When she allows me to lavish my affection onto her. And when she is in that mood and allows me to do it, I do go overboard because it's very rare that I get to really physically love on my daughter anymore, you know. But I definitely love on my grandchildren as much as I can. And as much as they allow me. And trust me, a couple of my grandbabies, they just eat it up, man. They just allow me to kiss them, squeeze them, and cuddle them as much as I want, you know. But yes, generations, we're in charge of ourselves. We don't have to follow a specific guideline, you know, that's been laid out for us or whatever, or programmed into us. Because that's all it is a program. You know? Every generation's programmed with something new. But it basically comes down to learning to question things and to think for yourself. And I think as a kid, as me growing up as a kid, there were certain things that I didn't question. There were certain things I just took at face value. But then as I got older, I started realizing that those were things that I should question, you know. But I really didn't have my major awakening until I was basically on the verge of 40. And now here I am, almost the verge of 55. So about 15 years ago is when I would say that my journey to self-awareness, self-healing, self-love, self-acknowledgement, looking inward versus always trying to look at everything as outside of myself, studying religion, studying politics, studying survival, studying people, studying energy. I've done all that in the last 15 years. Sometimes I think, oh, 15 years, man. When I first woke up, that's when I first turned off my TV in January of 2009. And then it was in June of 2009 is when I really started awakening. After 6 months of no rhetoric in my ears or in my face all the time. Yeah, I was spending all my time on social media. I was spending all my time on Facebook. I was spending all my time on not YouTube really that much, but other social media outlets at the time. I didn't really like Twitter, but there was a thing called Blog TV. It was kind of cool. That I hung out on a lot. YouTubers usually had a spot over there as well. It was a lot more advanced, Blog TV, than what we got nowadays. Blog TV, you could stream you could have people come in on your panel and things of that nature, have a little chat, kind of like they do now. But I think it was a lot better back then. But I was spending time on all these different channels, or all these different websites, and in groups and things like that, meeting others, talking to others, just trying to get as much of an experience and perspective as I could, And then in 2013 is when we went homeless. So here comes that life experience, that I'm going to have. And that would propel me into so many realms of knowledge, I suppose. That's how I look at it. A lot's happened in that 15-year period of time. And a lot's happened in the 6 years time that Daryl's been gone. And I look back on the last 6 years and I'm just amazed of how much I've gone through and where I am, in comparison, especially emotionally, I don't cry every time I talk about it. I don't cry every time I think about him now. I'm really starting to heal, and be in my element and work on me, and that's where I need to be, and I'm just grateful that I had the helpmate Daryl I had when I had him, he did so much for my life. He enriched my life in so many ways. I don't even know if he realizes how much he enriched my life, but he truly enriched my daughter's life. A very, very good human being that I'm blessed to say was my partner for 13 years, through thick and thin. For richer, for poorer, for better, for worse, through sickness and health, till death you part. We never took those words literally or spoke them in front of a preacher, but he was my husband in my heart. We didn't have a piece of paper saying we were married, but we were married in our hearts. And we definitely upheld our vows to one another that we made personally with one another. So with that, I'm grateful. I'm very grateful that I was blessed with that type of relationship. Well, I know I've been rambling on Easter Sunday morning for the last 24 minutes, so I guess it's time for me to call it an evening, I suppose. I'll try to make some videos tomorrow, but like I said, I don't really like to expose my family on booby tubby streets. My face crackling streets are okay, but not here. Anyway, much love, everybody. Peace, love, hugs, nugs. Don't forget to tell those that you love that you do love them, just so they know. So I love you all, and have a much blessed day, evening, whatever the time may be when you're listening to this.